Let's do some examples of addition of rational numbers. We've already learned how to add rational numbers with the number line and add them without the number line, but we may need some more practice. So let's take a look at some examples. -17 plus 17. Now remember our rule that when we add a negative with a positive, whichever one's farther away from 0 is going to have the sign of our answer. But in this case, the absolute value, or the distance away from 0 of -17, is actually the same as 17. They're both 17 units away from 0. So when we have -17 plus 17, we don't know if it's going to be positive or negative, but if we were to use the number line, we'd see that our answer is actually going to be 0, because -17 plus 17, or we can also write it as 17 minus 17, is actually 0. Okay, this next example, we have -13 plus a -7. And remember, when we add two negative numbers together, we're actually going to go farther in the negative direction on the number line. So our answer is going to be negative. So if we add two rational numbers and they both have a negative sign, our answer is going to be negative, and then you just have to add the absolute values of both terms, and that's going to be your answer. Just make it negative. So 13 plus 7 is what we're going to do. 13 plus 7 is going to equal 20, but -13 plus -7 will be a -20. Okay, this next example, we have 14 plus a -21. Well, remember, when we have a positive rational number plus a negative, we got to take a look at which one of these is farthest away from 0, and that's going to be the sign of our answer. So 14 is going to be 14 units away from 0, and -21 is going to be -21 units away from 0. So -21 units away from 0 is farther away from 0. So our answer is going to have whatever sign that term has, which happens to be negative. So our answer will be negative. And then you take the difference of both numbers. Or the difference of the absolute values of both numbers. So we take 21 minus 14. So 21 minus 14. So we can't take 4 away from 1, so we need to borrow from the 2. 11 minus 4 is going to give us 7. And then the 2 we rename to 1 because we borrowed 1. And then 1 minus 1 is 0. So our answer is 7, but it's going to be negative. So it's -7. Okay, this next problem, -12 plus 25. Okay, well, the absolute values are 12 and 25, right? Because -12 is 12 units away from 0, and 25 is 25 units away from 0. So which one of these has the larger absolute value? Which one is farthest away from 0? Well, it's going to be the 25. 25 is farther away from 0. So our answer is going to have the sign that goes along with the 25, which is positive. So our answer is going to be positive. And then we just take the difference of the absolute values. So 25 minus 12. And 5 minus 2 is 3, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So our answer is going to be a positive 13. Okay, this next one, we have fractions. Now, when we add fractions, we need the same denominator. We can't add fractions with different denominators. So we take a look. We have an 8 as a denominator here and a 4 as a denominator. And then let's pause here for a second and look at the signs. We have a negative plus another negative. So remember, just like the example directly above this one, two negatives, when we add those together, our answer is going to be negative. So, and that holds true with fractions or with decimals. If you have two negatives and you add them together, you know your answer is going to be negative. So let's take a look at the denominators, and we need to find the least common multiple of the denominators, or another term that's used is the least common denominator. And in this case, it's going to be 8. Both 8 and 4 go into 8, right? Because 8 times 1 is 8, and 4 times 2 is 8. So we can leave the -5/8 alone, and then we need to change the 1/4. And the way we do that is Well, we need an 8 on the bottom. And how do you get an 8 on the bottom? Well, a 4 times 2 is 8. So do the same thing with the numerator. And 1 times 2 is going to be 2. And it's negative. It's still negative. So this is what we're looking at. We have 5/8 plus a negative 2/8. So 5 plus 2 is 7. So we're going to end up with 7. And the denominators stay the same. We just add the numerators. And our answer is going to be negative because we're adding a negative and another negative. So our answer is going to be negative. So our answer is negative 7/8. And that's all there is to that one. Okay, this last example, we have a bunch of numbers. And one thing to keep in mind with rational numbers is when they're all added together, the commutative and the associative properties hold true for rational numbers. So we can rearrange these. We can group them and order them in any way we want. And one way to do that is to group all the positives together and group all the negatives together. So we can do that. We can write this whole thing as equal to 18 plus 11. Those are my two positive ones, right? Those are the two positive ones. And then we can add our negative ones together. So negative 7 plus negative 5 plus negative 2. And the reason I want to do this is so that we can add these together and then add our total together. So 18 plus 11, well, 18 plus 11, that's just going to be 29. And then we can add our negatives. And remember, when they're all negative, our answer is going to be negative. So negative 7 plus 5, well, 7 plus 5 is going to be 12. And then plus 2 will be 14. And our answer is going to be negative because they're all negative. So when we add all the negatives, our answer is going to be negative. So we end up with 29 plus a negative 14. And now it's something that's easier to handle. We can add 29 plus a negative 14 and take a look at the distance away from 0 of each of these. Well, the 29 is going to be farther away from 0 than negative 14. So our answer is going to have the same sign as the 29, which is positive. So our answer is going to be positive, and then we just take the difference of 29 and 14. So 29 minus 14. 9 minus 4 is 5, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So our answer is going to be 15, and it's going to be positive because it'll take the same sign as the number that's farthest away from 0. So our answer is 15. Okay, well, I hope these examples and the previous lessons have helped you understand a little bit more about adding rational numbers. Just one other vocabulary term to throw at you, and that was shown in the first example that we did, and that's the negative 17 plus 17. When you have two rational numbers whose sum is 0, like these are, when you add them together and your answer is 0, that's called an additive inverse. So 17 and negative 17 are actually additive inverses of each other. So any two rational numbers whose sum is 0 are called additive inverses of each other. Okay, well, I hope this makes a little bit of sense for you, and tune in for the next lesson.